Welcome to episode 13 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Cheryne Blom, a master coach, author, and the founder of the Self-Mastery Hub, your space for self-inquiry, healing, and growth. This podcast is here to remind you, midlife isn't a crisis. It's your time of awakening and coming home to you. Welcome to Season 2. This season is called The Art of Self-Connection, a 7-part journey that explores how we move from living for everyone else to living from our truth. Self-connection is at the heart of my coaching model and so key. I know I touched on it in episode 11, and I thought there's so much to discuss that I want to do a whole entire season, 12 episodes, dedicated to understanding the art of self-connection. Last season, we walked from fear to empowerment, and I introduced you to the idea that midlife isn't a crisis. It's a climax. It's a moment of awakening and beginning to see this awesome time of our life as a way to come home to ourselves, to break our patterns, to break old ways of thinking and being and doing life differently, living from the heart and living from truth instead of our fear. And so this season, we're going deeper into the heart of what it means to know and trust and honor yourself. Because everything, your peace, your relationships, your purpose, begins with one thing: self-connection. And midlife isn't about losing who you are, even if we feel lost in the uncertainty or the change of life. It's about finally coming home. What I've learned over 2 decades of coaching and deep personal growth is that we don't struggle because we don't know what to do. We're struggling because we've become disconnected from our own truth, our power, and ourselves. And when I talk about ourself, I mean ourself with a capital S, our sacred self, the authentic self, not the ego with the little s, the lowercase s. That's the self that is the conditioned self, the self based on fear, our personal reality or personality that we show the world, which is not necessarily our truth. And it's so powerful to really recognize that you're not broken. When we really think about it, that there's only one problem of disconnection, then it helps us understand what the solution is and what our path forwards is. And it was either Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung, the research is a little bit cloudy, who said that neurosis is a separation from self. And I really love that because what we feel when we are disconnected is we feel emotionally reactive. We feel anxious. And so I love to think of this as really two sides, that we are either in anxiety or we're in a state of connection. And that's really amazing to think about that, because what that means is we start to work with our anxiety and see it as a signal. If it is a separation from self, if that neurosis or that anxiety that we feel is separation from self, then anxiety can be defined simply as the body calling you back. The body saying, hold on, we're veering off path. We're not on our authentic plan. We're not being true to ourselves. Come back in, listen. And that is when we really work with our anxiety. And I know because anxiety has ruled me for so much of my life, and I've gone in and out of it, and I've worked through it, and then it's popped up again, and obviously shift of life and hormones and chaos and everything brings anxiety back. But what I want to share with you is a powerful roadmap that I've learned to work through my anxiety and come back to myself so that I show up with confidence and clarity instead of my anxious self, who just leaves me feeling annoyed and disempowered because I know that that's not my true self. It's just my nervous system and my fear. And it's interesting because when I look back at the times in my life where I've let myself down, or I took a detour off my life plan, or I've done something that possibly I regret, these were the moments when I did not follow my intuition. I did not speak up for myself. I didn't listen to what my intuition were saying, or I didn't have the courage to actually follow through on it. And I put other people's needs over what I needed. And I numbed myself from the discomfort of my anxiety. Instead of tuning into my anxiety and honoring it and listening to it and seeing it as that signal, I just distracted myself. And I think when we distract ourselves and when we numb ourselves, that's actually the pathway to losing ourselves. We get lost in this dark, awful, lonely forest that we veer into when we go into that dark space within ourselves. And when I look back at those times, fear was present. Fear was dominant. My need to be loved, or my need to be safe, or my need to play small dominated. It was in all those times, I really wasn't being honest with myself. I was othering. I wasn't focused on myself. And that means I was self-abandoning. And I don't know if you have heard that term, self-abandonment. It's super powerful because this is the signs when we really start to recognize when we are abandoning ourselves, when we are abandoning that wise woman, the sacred self, the inner sage. And this is so much for men than it is for women. I am not just speaking to a woman. This is just as much for you men, of self-abandoning. And so when we abandon ourselves, we do it without even realizing it. We silence our needs to keep the peace. We say yes when our soul is screaming no. We dismiss our feelings because they feel too much. We don't even know how to do the inner work or how to confront the discomfort of our feelings or the discomfort of having difficult conversations. So we just leave them. And we chase approval, we chase safety, hoping it will just fill that gap of emptiness. But that void, the emptiness inside, just grows because we've left home. And self-abandonment is the quiet epidemic of midlife. It's what I'm seeing in so many of my clients. We spend our days seeking connection from partners and children and careers, yet the connection we're truly craving is the one we've lost with ourselves. And so today we're going to explore why we self-abandon, how to recognize it, and what it actually means to come home to yourself. We're going to take self-connection and turn it into a model of understanding so that you can really have a clear roadmap to connecting back to that self without the brain stepping in and saying, what does that mean? How do I do this? So firstly, what is self-abandonment? Self-abandonment happens anytime we are triggered emotionally and we become reactive. We're letting our emotions rule us. We're in our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And in that survival stage, the pattern comes up, right? And we all the safety patterns and the habits that we've learned to protect ourselves come forward. And so it's really important to know your triggers. And we're going to talk about that more next week to really understand it. Because when we're triggered, instead of staying in our calm, grounded awareness, we disconnect from our truth. And we are guided by the desire for safety, to be accepted, to be liked, to not be rejected. Whatever it is, that's our core fear. We are actually trying to avoid that, not working towards being true to ourselves. And so this means that instead of having the confidence to stand in our power, we shrink or we self-betray to avoid rejection. And it starts young. In episode 10, I introduced you to the terms and conditions of our self-worth. This is the inner contract we subconsciously create early in childhood, a kind of unwritten rule book that defines how and when we are worthy. And this contract says something like this: if people approve of me, then I'm worthy. If I am, let's say, beautiful, then I am loved. If I keep the peace, I will not be abandoned. And we make decisions. Don't be too loud. Don't be too much. Be good. Keep the peace. Keep everyone happy. So we shapeshift to belong. And over time, these adaptations that we've made to ourselves, they become our identity. And they become the roles that we play. So we're not honoring our authenticity. We're honoring these adaptations, the changes that we make to ourselves. And so there's the self-abandonment. There is exactly how and why we've lost ourselves. And in adulthood, it looks like saying yes when you mean no, overgiving or overworking to feel worthy, ignoring your intuition because it might disappoint someone, seeking validation to feel seen, or staying quiet when your truth wants to speak. Each time you betray yourself, your inner trust weakens. And that's when anxiety, resentment, and burnout take hold. If we are constantly in a heightened emotional state, the nervous system is going to be overcharged and overworked. And we're going to end up with adrenal fatigue, which is when the body starts to feel that it just cannot cope with the amount of stress that we are keeping it in, and we just become exhausted. And we're going to talk about more about adrenal fatigue and recognizing those signs of burnout more throughout this season. So now let's look at the energy of connection versus disconnection. When we're disconnected, our energy fragments. We live in survival mode. We're reactive, defensive. We're constantly doing this need to keep busy. And we're constantly in this state of trying to prove that we matter. When we're self-connected, our energy flows. We feel grounded, clear, and alive. We still serve others, but from fullness, not emptiness or obligation. Self-connection isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's emotional maturity in motion. It's how we move from living by default to living by design. And so this season, we're going to look at how we actually practice self-connection. And I want to introduce you today to 7 types of self-connection, the layers of coming home to yourself. Because these 7 layers will help you recognize and begin to notice when you feel strong and when you've drifted away. So the first layer is self-awareness. We're going to call this the truth finder. This is when you have awareness about seeing your patterns without judgment. And you can ask yourself daily, what am I feeling? What am I doing here? How am I present? Am I connected or am I disconnected? Am I in a survival pattern or am I bringing myself back to calm? Awareness is the doorway to freedom. And the next layer is self-respect. We're going to call that the boundary keeper. It's about choosing alignment over approval. And to be able to ask yourself, what does self-respect look like right now? The next layer is self-control, the calm anchor. This isn't about controlling. This is about being in control and regulating your nervous system so you respond rather than react. You're able to pause and breathe and self-soothe and recenter so that you're coming home to that place of connection and navigating life through that home base rather than the disconnected emotional storm. And the next layer is self-worth, the inner valuer, and remembering you were worthy long before you proved anything. And this is about whispering to yourself, I am already enough. And next, we're going to look at self-compassion, the healer, speaking to yourself as you would to someone you love. Tenderness melts shame faster than any criticism ever could. And then we're going to look at self-expression, the voice of truth, and allowing your authentic voice to be heard without fear of rejection. Your truth is a gift, not a threat. And we're going to talk about frameworks and communication skills that are going to help you speak your truth with calm clarity. And then we're going to look at the layer of the sacred self-return, the integration, the moment all these aspects merge. You stop performing and you start being. You remember that your essence was never lost, just covered in layers of protection. So think of this as your map home to yourself. Every act of awareness, respect, or kindness is a step towards your wholeness. And so here's our powerful reframe. Self-abandonment is fear disguised as love. Self-connection is love grounded in truth. When you choose yourself, you're not rejecting others. You're simply no longer rejecting yourself. And I'd love to take you through a really quick 2-minute ritual, a self-connection ritual. I'm going to introduce this each week, another ritual. And today, I want to introduce you to the return to center, the return to coming home to you. And I remember years ago when I was learning meditation, I heard such a beautiful definition of meditation, that meditation is the pathway back to your heart. And I absolutely love that. And it's exactly what I mean when I say returning to your core and returning to your center, because we are going to look this season, not only how we master self-connection, but how we master our love and our life and how we lead through a heart-centered perspective and heart-centered awareness. So for today, get comfortable, close your eyes, and place your hand on your heart. And just really feel that connection of your hand on your heart. And feel your heart pulsating. Feel the beat, the rhythm, the voice of your heart echoing in your hand. And hold your awareness on your heartbeat. Take a nice deep breath in and a breath out. And just direct your breath coming in through that point of your heart center and exhale out. And as you breathe in, feel the warmth of your breath coming into the heart, opening the heart, softening the heart. And as you exhale, feel the heart open and expand. Nice deep breath in, open, soften, feel that beautiful warm center. Feel the comfort, the beautiful safety of coming home to your truth, to your heart, to you. And exhale, feel your heart open and expand. And just hold your awareness on your heart and whisper softly to yourself, I am here. I am listening. I am home. And just feel that return to center. Feel the pulsation of your heart and the energy of your heart. Our heart holds a wisdom that we're going to learn to listen to when we practice the art of self-connection. And you can use this whenever you feel rushed or lost in othering, to come back to yourself. It's your anchor back to safety and into yourself. And my reflection question for you this week is, where in my life am I abandoning myself? And what's one small way I can choose connection instead this week? And remember, you can't be truly connected to others if you're disconnected from yourself. And if you're still feeling confused around when you disconnect and how you disconnect, take the Hidden Fear Persona quiz. The link is in the show notes of this episode, and it is going to show you and reveal the stress pattern that you default to. And remember, awareness is the first step. So take the quiz and really recognize your stress pattern, because that's going to be your first step to recognize when you are in that stress pattern, you are disconnecting. And next week, we'll explore the second layer of self-connection, self-respect, and define what personal power really means. So please click that follow or subscribe button to stay up to date with all our episodes. And please share this episode with someone you know is ready to come home to themselves. And thanks again for listening to A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. And remember, you're not too late. You're right on time. And your best, most connected chapter begins right now.